What happens if we stop procreating? Welcome back to Bible Bears, everyone. I'm Ryder Cullison. Okay, so there was a Democratic data scientist. His name is David Shore. He recently released findings from a private poll which suggests that 30% of American women under 25 now identify as LGBT. 30% identify as LGBT. Now, I'm not making this a moral issue. That's not what I'm here to discuss. Whether that community is immoral or moral or was created by God or if it's a choice, just put that out of your mind. Let's focus on the fact that 30% identify as LGBT. They're not out there procreating. And let's examine why this is happening and what are the implications of it. Before we get into that, don't forget to hit this. I can't say that. Before we get into this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you will be alerted when I post new videos. Okay, so what is this pointing to? Well, the U.S. fertility rate, if you didn't know, is at a 35-year low. We're long past the baby booming generation. Now everything is on the decline. Why is it on the decline? Well, aside from the fact that 30% of women identify as LGBT, that could have something to do with it. But we'll get to that in a second. There's other things. Some suggest that the economic structure in America poses difficulties to women who want to start a family. That's possible. A lot of people aren't quite buying that because there are economic structures in place to help women. And in Europe, where there are even more economic initiatives, funds, agendas, whatever you want to have it, movements in place to help women, they haven't reversed their fertility decline. As Rod Dreher points out, he's the senior editor at American Conservative, many people no longer value the natural family. Another point to consider is that today sex is considered primarily for individual fulfillment, where at one time it was about producing the next generation. This is concurred by sociologists Catherine Eden and Maria Kafalis. They argue that marriage is no longer about childbearing and child rearing. It is more about personal growth, self-esteem, adult fulfillment. Many people are suggesting that the B in LGBT, meaning those who identify as bisexual, are pulling most of this train, either because of gender fluidity or just bi curiosity, or people who really aren't bi but just want to feel included. They're pulling the train here. However, as one person pointed out, does this really solve our procreation problems? Do you want, seriously, let's be honest here. Do you want to be in a relationship with someone who identifies as bi? If you're a woman, do you want to be with a bi man? Do you want to share your spouse with another man? And vice versa. If you're a man in a relationship with a woman, and if we're being honest, do you want your woman going out on dates at night with other women without you? You're picturing yourself in this situation. No, you're at home watching the kids while your wife is off with another woman. No, most people don't want that. So even if, let's say, of this 30% of women who identify as LGBT, even if 25% of them are bi, that is still a huge percentage of the population that is not helping our procreation. Now, what are the implications of this? If people stop having children, what happens to society? People no longer value the family's breaking down. What happens to the economies? We rely on new generations of people to maintain our economies. If there's less and less people, there's less and less consumers. People who have jobs start to lose jobs. It's very simple. Now, a woman commented on these recent polls and articles. She gives a few reasons why many people might be identifying as LGBT. She says, one, identifying this in this manner puts you in the in crowd. It's now safe to be LGBT. Men are seen as optional and can be easily replaced. Also, women cling to these identities as a way of replacing something inside that is broken. And she suggests this feeling is going to be fleeting. Whatever is broken, you're just putting a band-aid on it. It's going to remain broken, and it's going to rear its ugly head again. Identifying as something that you're not, as something that you place value upon, that's external to you, building your house on sand. It's going to crumble. There's a shift in society where we used to value the miracle of giving birth. Women have been endowed with the ability to give birth to other humans. Not just give birth, but to nurture and raise children. Women instill in children morals and manners and respect for authority. And if they're Christian, fear for God and loving your neighbor and showing compassion. This was an awesome responsibility to have. And so over the years, we've seen this shift from this responsibility is, you know what, it's not so great since the man goes off to make money and have a job and be successful while I'm stuck at home with the kids. Raising kids is not seen as a significant role in this world. And now we're seeing the shift go even further where giving birth is really not so important. I mean, what's the big deal if we run out of people? But that's just crazy talk, right? Well, there's things happening today that 10 years ago we would have considered crazy talk if we had even proposed it. We need to get back to celebrating birth. What's a birthday about? It's celebrating the fact that you're alive. You are special. You were created by God, and let's celebrate you. There's too much celebration over our awards and our careers that we now have because we didn't have to be weighed down by a human being. That's great. That's great that you can accomplish something, but you can do that and raise a child. This isn't just about women. Maybe more women would have children if the men would start taking responsibility for the children that they are fathering. That used to be what happened. Men took responsibility, they married the woman, they took care of the child. Now they're taking off. And women are having abortions, or they just don't want to have a child at all because they can't trust the man to be there. Dude, we need more people. China is gonna overrun us. Yo, women can give birth. They can produce other human beings. And it's not really seen as a big deal. So we have a huge section of the population that through the Me Too movement, through maybe disgust with pro-life advocacy, with the rise of homosexuality and such, and again, I'm not discussing whether it's a moral or immoral issue, I'm just saying it's on the rise. They see men as useless. They want to distance themselves from giving birth, from any of the traditional things that women have in the past done. And now to be an empowered woman actually means to be more like a man, which is a bit ironic, don't you think? Guys, what do you think? Do you agree with any of these comments below about women in general, about the implications of not procreating, about the implications of homosexuality on the rise in our culture? Look, if you want to discuss whether it's moral and immoral, feel free to do that. That wasn't the purpose of this. I was simply suggesting that because the statistics appear to be on the rise, what are the implications of that as far as multiplying and filling the earth? Or do you just think that multiplying and filling the earth is a terrible idea because of we're contributing to climate change? There are lots of things to discuss here. put that in your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. As always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification. And you know what comes next. I love you, and have a blessed week.